You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Jr. welcoming you to another lap of Extra Mile for today, September 5th, 2024. And it seems like every championship contender in IndyCar, F1, and NASCAR ran into some sort of issue this past weekend. And to help me talk about it, of course, are my co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. Gentlemen, say hello.
How's it going?
What's going on, people?
Thank you so much for those jumping into the chat, whether you're listening live or recorded. Thank you so much for listening this evening. We're going to pay a few bills, and we're going to come back and get started on the show, so sit right there. We'll be right back, and we'll get started just after this.
For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iSportsRadio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, iEsports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And we're back here on Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we get going, I want to jump ahead to a conversation that has been going around in IndyCar, which is a discussion on everyone's favorite word, the charter, because that's been going so great in NASCAR, and we'll get to that in a minute, that IndyCar wants to do the same thing. Well, there's starting to become some concrete parameters about what the charter discussion for IndyCar could look like. And I will say this, there will be no guaranteed spots for the Indy 500. There will be guaranteed spots for the other races for the 25 charter teams with a max grid size of 27. For the Indy 500, it would be 33, and if you don't get in the race, you don't get in the race. If you remember during the spring and the summer, when it was first floated that there would be guaranteed Indy 500 starting spots, IndyCar fans pretty much had a mutiny at that. So that is where we are so far with those discussions. To be honest, judging how NASCAR is going, I don't know if this is the direction IndyCar should go down, but fellas, monkey see, monkey do. That's the best way I can say it.
I mean, in my opinion, in my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. I think what IndyCar has going on right now is fine, but I guess some people won't just want to change something and make a difference. So I guess that's why we have the situation we have now. But like I said, in my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I do not like it. I think it gets into the same. My problem is you're cutting off your nose to spite your face at a time where team interest into getting into IndyCar is absolutely sky high. And now you've decided we're going to kneecap that at 27, which I get you have some issues with cars coming in or with some of the pit lanes, but that's great when all of this stuff is great when business is booming. But when business takes a tumble, then what? It's not something that you're artificially limiting how people get into the sport. And if they want to get these guaranteed spots into the race, and I'm assuming they're also going to come with a monetary bump like what happened with NASCAR's charters, you're going to have to pay out the nose for one of these charters. And we've kind of seen how high they can go with Live Fast and NASCAR selling their charters for about $40 million, or how that ended up, and everybody got out with $20 million apiece.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, they're just treating it. It could be treated as an investment. You buy if the price is right. You put the car out there, put in your time, and then sell high.
Well, we'll see how that goes. As usual, with these decisions, all I'm going to say is if you have guaranteed Indy 500 spots, you are going to see a mutiny at Speedway, Indiana in May. But while we're talking charter, let's go ahead and get into the NASCAR situation when it comes to charter. They had recent negotiations in Darlington, and I've got to find a picture here to show how those conversations went. Now, we didn't get like an official statement from anyone on what the latest offer was. It was, let's be honest, probably terrible, given how NASCAR has done it so far. But Bob Pockrass actually posted this following photo. I'm going to blow it up so you can see it. This will tell you how well the charter negotiations in NASCAR are going. If you can't read that, it says, "Please don't ask me about my charter. I don't want to disparage NASCAR and lose it."
Oh my gosh.
That is where we are in charter negotiations in NASCAR.
That probably says all we need to know.
And I think, and I'm going to put up this blown up version, I think it just comes to the point of, and we just have to accept NASCAR does not like the charters. They do not want to continue the charter system, but NASCAR also doesn't want to give up any of the TV revenue that they're getting from the broadcast partners. At this point, we already know that NASCAR teams have said that, and Denny Hamlin actually came out and said on his podcast, if I don't have this charter money, and if we don't have an equitable deal at charters, I'm going to keep my cars home for some races. Which means the 23 isn't going to have to worry about whether or not they can point their way into the playoffs next year because they're not going to be playoff eligible. And a lot of other cars aren't going to be playoff eligible either because I think there's going to be a lot of teams that miss one or two or more races, including God only knows what's going to happen at the Daytona 500.
I would see, like, if I'm a team owner and I don't have the incentive of the charter to run races, I'm skipping Sonoma because that's literally as far away as you can get across the country. That's an expensive race to go to.
Well, we also have Mexico now.
Yeah, I'm skipping Mexico because there's a crap ton of stuff that's got to come with crossing the border. And, basically, I might be thinking Vegas, that's a haul. And stuff like Daytona, sure, I'll go to those. Those are only a couple hours. This is starting
to sound like a really bad idea.
Yeah, but I'm if I'm a team owner, basically I'm saying I'm not crossing the Mississippi. Maybe some fringe ones that are right there, but I'm not going to Sonoma by any means. What just needs to happen is NASCAR needs to pull their head out of their what and just get the deal done. Because nobody's going to watch a playoffs with Spire, front row, I don't know, just nobody teams, new ones that get made up when you don't have a charter because they're just going to crawl out of the woodwork. The money team, love to see the money team run the playoffs. You know what I mean? I
don't even know if that's a thing anymore.
It's probably not.
Let's get some feel fillers.
You might see Rich Energy crawl out of the woodwork. Who knows?
Oh my
Don't
God.
say that. We have a problem, and Chris and I were talking about this at length before the show started, but we are sitting here now in a situation with NASCAR where the individuals running the sport and the teams cannot get along. Something has to change. Now, whether that means Jim France cashes out with his family and sells to Liberty Media for a obscene amount of money.
Michael, you'll appreciate this. I know how to get Liberty Media to buy NASCAR.
How?
I can guarantee it. All that needs to happen is Andretti says they're in. Andretti says they're in. Liberty Media is on the phone tomorrow.
Also, congratulate Andretti and Wayne Taylor Racing. They just got back with Cadillac.
Yeah, that after flip-flopping to Acura, they're back to Cadillac for next year. The IMSA season's about to wrap up here. They got Indianapolis, I think, next week? Yes, next week, which is always fun. It'll be a 6-hour race there. But back with the NASCAR situation and the charters. The charter was not a NASCAR idea. It was a Robert Kaufman idea back when NASCAR was just hemorrhaging teams. And this was the only way to guarantee that they were going to basically fill the field every week. So they pretty much set the field limit at 36. Yes, they have 4 spots for open cars. But let's be real. The field size now is the 36 charter cars because those are the only cars that show up to all the races. And NASCAR is now in this situation where they think, oh, all the teams are good now. We don't need this. Well, the teams are sitting there saying, oh, hold on now. You've got all this TV money that we can't get access to because NASCAR's whole deal is, well, y'all have all the corporate sponsorship, so we get to keep all the TV money. The corporate sponsor money is not going as far as it used to.
No.
Like the boom period of the mid to late 90s to early 2000s, that is gone. We are back to where sponsorship money should have been. And the teams need to get a 50-50 split, at least in the Cup Series, of the sponsorship money. It probably needs to go in Xfinity and Truck as well. I don't know how much money they get to broadcast those two. ARCA, I think, is broadcasted at this point with about $5 and a Wendy's 4 for $4. So you're not splitting much off of that. So Taryn Rodriguez in. Taryn had a question about Nearest the Win. Nearest the Win is on hiatus at this point. Unfortunately, a lot of us had a lot of moving and shaking in our lives. Those of us that have to run the game. And unfortunately, it's just got to the point where it would not be fair to continue to where it started. So we're going to put that away for now, unfortunately. And we will possibly come up with a more unofficial game to go forward, unfortunately. So Nearest the Win is in the garage for now. But back to this. Speaking of being in the garage, this charter situation, I honestly think NASCAR should just go ahead, go to Liberty Media and say, look, $8 to $10 billion, it's yours. I don't see Liberty Media saying no.
Not with all their money.
Yeah. Now, the problem is, what does that mean for our tickets at the track? Because that could get obscene. And I don't know if Liberty Media is going to keep the prices as affordable as the France family has. That's my one concern.
They'd almost have to, at least in the short term, just because what are they going to do? Have empty stands? No. I mean, I know that they will, but I think to a degree they would have to come in and make minimal changes for the first handful of years.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be little tweaks here and there. But realistically, the big thing I'm doing, and again, I catch a lot of hate for this, I'm taking 10 races off the schedule day one. Bye. We're going down to a 20-something race season, 28 race season.
Yeah.
That's day one. Bye. Bye, Texas Motor Speedway. You are literally number one.
It was first Texas.
Texas, you are the weakest link.
I think
no track needs 2 races. No track needs 2 races.
You got to get the schedule down to 26 races if they're going to make this happen. But that's our update on the charter discussions. We'll go ahead and get into Darlington and how that race went. And 2 straight weekends, we have a walk-off win, Michael, with Chase Briscoe picking up the win. And for a Stewart-Haas racing team that is heading for the exit door at the end of 2024, they are certainly going out with a bang.
They're certainly going out with a bang, and I think it still upsets me that this is potentially Stewart-Haas's racing's last win. This. Go ahead.
Yeah, depending on how the season goes, this will probably be their last ever win, and it's weird that we're saying that.
Yeah, it's very weird that we're saying that, considering how, I kind of watched this team start, grow, become championship contenders, and now it's going in my opinion, one of the worst ways possible. But, it is what it is. Motorsport racing is cruel. So, I'm just glad before, they close the door forever, they at least got a win.
Yeah, Chris, it's sad that they're gone, but I think the win's going to make it feel a little bit better because now at least they get to run for the they get to run to walk off with a championship.
Yeah, they get a little bit of a glory run on the way out. I still think overall for the sport, it's addition by subtraction, though. This is the most promise we've seen out of them in years.
Yeah. And it's as they're shutting down their doors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a team with, let's be honest, an owner that was a bit absentee.
I mean, look at like Furniture Row. Like, that, you kind of go down swinging to a degree. So, Furniture Row, I'm sure they probably knew months, they probably knew going into the playoffs that they were probably going to shut down. And they got their glory ride out, and maybe the Haas will get the same thing. But yeah, at least they've got something to go out and ride off with something positive.
Yeah, on the other end, Martin Truex Jr., who's retiring at the end of this season, he will come back to run the Daytona 500 with Cole Pern, though. That was announced earlier today. Nearly missed the playoffs entirely after just an uncharacteristic mistake on lap number 2. But he got bailed out by Chase Briscoe winning that race. On the other end, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, 2 drivers that were pushing to get into the playoffs. I mean, Booty Barker special at the end there for Bubba, not taking tires on the penultimate caution. Everybody behind them takes tires. They get swallowed up. A caution happens. Then they come in to get tires and then end up in the middle of the squirrels and then end up in an accident not of their own making. Bubba ends up 16th. Wouldn't have made the playoffs anyway. But then the Chase Briscoe win just twists the knife a little bit. He is out of the playoffs. Buescher is out of the playoffs. And your playoff grid is set as you go take a look at NASCAR.com. These are your 16 that will go into the next race in Atlanta, which is this weekend, to race for a championship. Your top 12, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Tyler Reddick, who is your regular season champion. You can see the rest on your screen for those that are listening. 6 through 10 are Brian Blaney, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Joe Logano, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, and Chase Briscoe are 11th and 12th. The drivers starting on the bubble are Alex Bowman, Harrison Burton, the rookie Ty Gibbs, and Martin Truex Jr. Those are your drivers that are trying to fight their way in as we start this first round. And as we get ready to go into this first round, Kyle Petty, who was back on the broadcast on Sunday, was asked about the teams of those drivers that did not make it that are now, let's keep it a buck, whining about the playoff system and whining that their driver did not make it because Briscoe and Harrison Burton won their way into the playoffs. Well, as Kyle Petty put it, it's sour grapes. Everybody knew how this system was going to work at the start of the year, and I agree. When we cut the engines on for the Daytona 500, everybody knew the only way to ensure that when you got to this point of the damn season, the only way to ensure that you would be in the playoffs is if you won a race. We went through the season, 15 drivers figured out how to get to victory lane. The only driver, and because he had a stellar summer, was Ty Gibbs. He was the only driver to get in not on points. And there was a lot of Bubba Wallace fans on Twitter that were complaining that Harrison Burton got into the playoffs. Well, I'm going to show you guys something that explains why Bubba Wallace didn't get into the playoffs, and it had nothing to do with Harrison Burton. Because it is not Harrison Burton's fault that Bubba Wallace did not make the playoffs. And I am tired of having to hear that. trying to find this picture, but I'm going to throw it to Michael first. Michael, what is your thoughts on all these complaints that we're hearing about the playoff system?
I don't necessarily agree with a lot of these complaints. I do agree with the winning your in system. I do think it makes it more exciting. But, I also feel as though, it just gives drivers more incentive to actually go out there, push, and, win as much as you can. And also promotes new winners. So I'm fine with it for the most part.
Because I can't get this. Unfortunately, I can't get this screenshot to work. So I'm just gonna have to read it out. This is Bubba Wallace in back in June. These are his 5 finishes from New Hampshire, from Charlotte to New Hampshire. Finished 11th in the rain delay, 21st, 20th at Sonoma, 17th at Iowa. Crashed out of New Hampshire, finished 34th. Why do you think you deserve to make the playoffs with 5 finishes that bad? And they were in the top 10 in points before that point. They put themselves in a hole they could not get out of. And the Gateway race will stick in my head. You brought a car that was 8th fastest. You finished 21st with it. Why should you go to the playoffs? It is not, if you've got to fight Harrison Burton and Chase Briscoe to make the damn playoffs, you don't deserve to be there to begin with. On the other hand, the other car figured it out. Tyler Reddick lucked himself into a win, locked himself in. So what's the issue? 15 cars won this season. 15 cars made their way into the playoffs. 1 car with a stellar season got in without points, which is the only way you're going to be able to get in without points now, because the spread is so tight, especially with this next gen car. You have to win if you're going to get to the playoffs. Everybody knew that coming in. Buescher had 2 bites of the apple, couldn't do it. Bubba couldn't even get freaking close. I think the closest they got was Michigan, and then the world's best driver self-spun on a restart and took him out. But even before that, as I said, they came into the summer and they started with 5 finishes of 11th or worse. And they had to spend the rest of the summer digging out of that hole that they could not dig out of. Harrison Burton is not why they didn't make the playoffs. Chase Briscoe is not why they didn't make the playoffs. Poor decisions and poor runs is why they did not make the playoffs. And I really don't want to hear it from anybody else who says, well, their driver got screwed. Win a race. That's the way you ensure your way into the playoffs.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And as we're sitting here, we're looking at these teams that did not make the playoffs. Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, and Bubba Wallace, chief among them, that'll now race for 17th. There's a lot of soul searching that's going to have to be done with those teams in the last 10 to figure out how they get better. And I'll start with the 23. It's time for a crew chief change. Booty Barker is a great cheerleader. Him and Bubba Wallace have reached the limit of what their partnership can do. It is time to change it. As far as the one is concerned, Trackhouse Racing just had a down season. They were not as competitive as they've been in recent years. I really don't know what happened over there, but other than Suarez, they could not, or Suarez, in the ridiculously close finish at Atlanta earlier in the year, they did not have the speed to consistently run up front. And for Buescher, it's just a tough break, but he showed a lot of speed. He showed that that he does have talent, and while it's unfortunate he didn't make the playoffs, his future is very bright. And I think next year he will be back there as RFK continues to improve, possibly add a third charter, who knows. But I think Buescher is the one that has the rosiest outlook going into next season. Chris, what's your thought on the top four that did not make the playoffs?
You're muted.
Yep, thank you. It you guys said it right as the thing popped up on the screen. It kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, that when the season starts, the engines fire at Daytona, everybody knows what's on the line and what you have to do. I think we have seen many times that a win can come from anywhere, at any time. And so these teams have to be vigilant at all times. And if you want in, you got to win, right? So as far as the people on the outside looking in, they know what they need to do for next year. I just went full screen. That's weird.
No, you're good. I'm playing around with
something. Okay. You win and you're in. So these teams that are on the fringe that didn't make it in this year, sorry, this is really distracting.
I just realized that flag in the background has the same font as Dale Earnhardt's number 3.
Does it?
Yeah, it kind of looks like
it. Yeah, it does. I'm trying to play producer over here, Chris.
But the middle's a little different.
Yeah, I'm trying to play producer over here. So
it's a little difficult to see, but it's the middle of the three is a little like thicker. But back to what I was saying, those guys that didn't make it in, next year you need to adjust. And I think that on, any given Sunday, little tip of the hat to a great movie, you can get it done and you need to get it done. So we look at a team like, okay, Darryl, please. You look at a team like 23-11, and you know that they really have a weak spot on the box.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for, a new crew chief for the 23. That team has tons of potential, and you need to address what your weak links were from the previous season and go back and figure out what's going on and make the adjustment for next year. So, if I miss the playoffs this year, I'm not too worried about it. I'm bummed, but I'm treating this playoff season to say, let's make some tweaks and hit the ground running next year. So let's try some different strategies, especially on tracks that we go to multiple times. Let's try to, let's go for a crazy adjustment, and maybe we miss and we finish dead last. It doesn't matter. You're not racing for anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you have the opportunity to test some things out for next season. So I hope to see that. I would love to see Bubba, come off of a race and say that was the worst car I ever drove. We tried out something new for next year, and it was terrible. Great. Love that. Absolutely love that. That means you tried, you failed, and next year you'll try something different rather than just waiting for next year to try.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you learn a lot more from failing than you do winning. So it's definitely a good time to go back to the drawing board and see what you did wrong.
Well, as the flag behind me would indicate, that's not really a fun feeling.
No, now you know.
Learning from mistakes is not fun, guys.
Yeah, I think
the knows the pain, guys.
I think the theme right now, we haven't even gotten to Kyle Busch yet. the happy feelings that they had when he got over there last year to RCR, that is gone. That team went absolutely backwards. I have
without
no
a
idea
doubt.
what happened.
I don't know what's going on at RCR. I really don't.
I think they're too busy dealing with the political issues than focusing on running their cars. That's just what I think.
And it seems like Kyle Busch, like ever since the whole deal with the energy drink went down, it seems like he's been gone down with it, so to speak.
I think, let's be honest, he's just counting down the days till Brexton is old enough to run a truck so he can go do that. And then
he's got some waiting to do.
Well, Brexton, I think he's got to be like 16 to run a truck, something like that.
He's what, probably like 7?
He's like 12 now.
Is he really?
Yes.
Jeez.
We are all aging rapidly. But he's just counting down the days so him and Brexton can go run in the truck series together, and Kyle will retire from Cup, go run full-time truck to beat up on them and run with his son, and then that'll be it. I think he knows that's where he is at this point. Yeah, he'll ride off into the sunset as the veteran everybody suddenly likes.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
Look at Kurt. No, but anybody that tells you they liked him in his early career is lying to you.
Don't even get me started with Senior. We've had that conversation before, but yeah, it always happens with these vets. They get to a certain age, everybody starts liking them again. Brad Keselowski's at that time now. Joey Logano's going to hit that at some point. Denny Hamlin kind of did it in reverse, where everybody liked him. Now they hate his freaking guts.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll circle back. Maybe the podcast will kind of circle him back a little bit.
I think the podcast might be hurting him more than helping him, but I think it'll circle back once he retires and starts running his own cars. So,
yeah.
Hopefully win that championship though first.
Yeah, hopefully. But they are heading out to Atlanta this week, and they're going to start with a super speedway style race to get started, and it's really going to jumble up the playoffs, and we can't wait to see how that wraps up. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, Red Bull is in trouble, but McLaren might bail them out. We'll talk about that more on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Darryl, Chris, and Michael here with you this evening. No Jenn B tonight. She'll be back next week. The NFL season has officially gotten underway, as currently the Chiefs and Baltimore are getting ready to play. As of course, the game is supposed to start at 8:20, but it's the first game of the year, so there's like a billion hours of pregame beforehand. So that game will get started soon. And
the rain. It's apparently there's like a torrential downpour.
Don't tell me they're in a rain. Don't tell me they're in a rain delay.
They literally are on a rain delay, and everybody on Twitter, I was just scrolling through, are freaking out about, like, did they think about moving the time up? Maybe they can use a rain ball. It's actually kind of funny what they're saying, but like, I'm kind of with them, but kind of not at the same time, because NASCAR can do things.
I felt this one before. To the NFL fans out there, we feel your pain. We feel your pain. Speaking of feeling pain, Red Bull absolutely in trouble after a horrible Italian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen was only able to, he started 7th, was only able to finish 6th. So he took a championship hit as he is trying to nurse this lead to the finish in Abu Dhabi. But he got some help as McLaren decides, hey, you know our second driver that's not actually fighting for the championship? Let's let him race the guy who is second in the points and desperately needs every point possible. Piastri and Norris fight each other on lap number 1. Piastri ends up getting around Norris going into turn number 4. But the race became a tire battle of 1 stop versus 2 stop. Ferrari with Charles Leclerc goes for the 1 stop. Piastri and Norris run a 2 stop. And Charles Leclerc brings victory to Italia, winning the Italian Grand Prix in a Ferrari. Michael, the floor is yours.
Absolute cinema is all I gotta say. It was a great drive from Charles Leclerc there to nurse those tires home. And also, not only did he manage to nurse the tires home, but he actually did it with a pretty good, decent race pace there. So, also Ferrari didn't mess up on the strategy. In fact, they got it right. So it's kind of crazy to hear that.
That's a rare one where they get their strategy right, given how Ferrari has been the last few years on the strategy box. But it's got to feel good for them to come in. They sweep the races in Italy, but we all know if they don't get on the podium in Monza, everybody's getting fired the next day. So for them to come in and get this win is incredible. But Chris, McLaren, I know for them it's been a while since they've been in this position where they have a legitimate fight for the championship. But given the amount of races they have thrown away, the amount of races they have failed to prioritize Lando Norris, Hungary is a big one. that stands out to me right now, because it's looking like it could come down to that 6-point gap that he missed in Hungary. They are in trouble, and they might win. At this point, they're probably going to win the Constructors' Championship, but not winning the Drivers' Championship with Norris. They're going to look absolutely foolish if they don't get this together.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, because they're competing at such a good level, and Red Bull seems to be getting slower. So for them, they're probably thinking like, there's no real reason to play the team game right now.
Mm-hmm.
We know that they can strike and win at any given point. And my thought is to keep things happy. They are just going to let it ride until they need to step in and do something. And there's, obviously there's been talks about, Weber being his agent, and him being very familiar with team orders. So there might be a clause in there for Piastri, to be, basically to eliminate team orders. And my thought is that, maybe the team orders can only take effect if Lando is within, 25 points of first place, or on the flip side, if Piastri was in the situation, maybe they can't force Lando to concede a position for Piastri until he's within X amount of points of the lead. But I don't think McLaren needs to sweat it out yet. They are so much faster than Red Bull, and everything is indicating that it's going to get worse as the season goes on. I don't think the problems are getting better, because I was like, when we were back and you guys were talking, I was reading an article, and it was talking about how like the factory didn't know that Max requested the old floor in Zandvoort.
Mm-hmm.
Like, apparently they didn't know. And then they were just summarizing some of his radio, and like they said that he's like disassociating big time, and like essentially that they can tell that he's already given up, because he's complaining about backmarker teams at this point, not even worried about Lando. So, and he's already essentially conceded the loss of the championship anyway.
Well, as you told us, they're going to reset the car back to the last time they won, which was way back at the beginning of the year. The problem is the cars around them are a far magnitude faster than then. So you're going back to reset. You have no time to make upgrades to try this again. You've got to start getting ready for 2025, not to mention the 2026 development that's already going on. So this season's development path at this point is over. You don't have time to try to go back and try again. So you've got to pray to God that resetting to the mean is going to make you faster, and then hope to God that the guys behind you that are catching you at a rate of knots start having issues, which, given what McLaren is doing, I can't guarantee, but I have this feeling Norris is going to end up out because of Piastri. And what do you do then? Because they don't have a race to give. If Norris has a DNF, that's probably it for the championship. I think Max will hold on by the hair of his chin.
That's assuming Max doesn't have a DNF, though.
That's also, assuming Max doesn't have a DNF either, which if Max has a DNF, it's over. He's fully checked out at that point.
So both cars can't afford a DNF.
Yeah, no, both cars have to finish the remaining 9 races. But Michael, it's an interesting point we're in where those two are fighting. Ferrari is fast enough to play spoiler to where Max may be able to sit tight if they can continue, they being Ferrari, take points off McLaren.
They
But this
and
is
Ferrari. Not they and Mercedes can.
yeah. Well, who knows at Mercedes? The car seems to be going back into Mr. Hyde mode. But I say all that to say, I did not think we would be having this conversation this deep into the season. Yet here we are.
Yeah, I didn't think we would be having this conversation either. When I saw Max win about 7 races this season, I thought it was over, but lo and behold, here we are. If Max wins the season, well, actually, I still think he's going to win. It'll definitely go down as a very interesting season, not for on track, but for behind the scenes.
If I was Toto Wolff, I probably wouldn't have made my second driver announcement yet. I would have dragged Max for a couple more races.
I think he had to, though, because I don't think there had to have been some communications that they weren't going to be able to make that deal done at least for 2025.
I still don't think that Antonelli should be in the car yet, but that's just me.
Well, not a lot of people don't.
I tell you, it seems like it's heating up between a potential reunion for Aston Martin and Max. Obviously, not like the team, but like the manufacturer. The chatter is that like, and I think Lawrence Stroll's playing into it too. But it seems like there's some chatter about him going to Aston Martin, which if he's following Newey, I'd follow Newey too.
Man, if Lance thought he was getting outperformed by his teammate when Alonso was there, wait till Verstappen jumps into the car.
Man, what if freaking Lance wins the championship?
He won.
I mean, then he cuts off F1 2024 and goes to bed.
Yeah. Off easy mode.
Jesus. I wasn't even going to go that far.
Now, easy mode was what Max was playing last year.
Yeah.
In other news, Colapinto made his debut during the Italian Grand Prix for Williams and kind of showed that Logan Sargent was the problem over there. As first race in the car, finishes 2 points out or 2 positions outside of the points. The kid had a pretty respectable day. Of course, Albon finished in front of him, but he looks like he's got some speed.
Well, let's not forget, we talk about like Nick DeVries too. He had a hell of a flashy day at Monza once too.
Mm-hmm.
So it might not necessarily. Let's see how he does 2 or 3 races from now.
Yeah.
But Colapinto did a good enough job to get sacked by VCARB next season for sure.
Yes.
Another driver who didn't have a good day and won't have a good day next week is Magnussen.
Well, he's not even going to be there as he got into another one of his let me park the bus for my teammate fights with Pierre Gasly. And this time for the FIA slapped him with enough penalty points that he's got a race ban. Will not be in Azerbaijan. And
good.
Unfortunately, there's more than enough races for him to get enough points for another one because neither of those drivers are coming back next year, so he has no reason to care.
Yep. And quite frankly, he's done that multiple times this season, so I'm happy that they're parking him.
He should have been parked a couple of races ago, let's be honest.
Correct.
And I don't understand why he thinks this is a good idea. You are putting people, including yourself, in danger. So I don't understand why he would go out there, park the bus, and cause the issues that he's causing. I think at this point, it's a F it, I'm not going to be here type move. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Probably.
It's like taking an upper decker on your last day.
Yep.
Well, Kevin, just come to the WEC. We got plenty of seats for you, literally.
Yeah, we won't be able to park the bus there, so.
Yeah, he'll get punted by a hypercar.
Yep. So we got some IndyCar conversation to get to before we say good night. Alex Palou almost almost saw his championship dreams go up in smoke during the Milwaukee Mile weekend last week, where the engine dies on race 2 because of a battery issue. He's able to rebound. Well, not really. He rebounds to finish 19th. His championship rival, Will Power, after leading 64 laps, gets into an incident, can only finish 10th. So Palou has the lead with a 32-point advantage going into Nashville in 2 weeks. But that had to scare Palou because that was his first big oopsie of the year, and it comes in the penultimate race of the season. That is not when you want these technical gremlins to start happening.
Definitely. He'll definitely be having that in the back of his mind in Nashville.
Yep. And the issue is we're now having all these issues because of, well, not because of, but we have a new engine with the hybrid powertrain, and it's starting to have, it's having some teething issues. And unfortunately, those issues have bitten Ganassi a little bit more than everybody else. So, Chris, I think over the next couple of weeks, they're going to be going over whatever engine they're going to use for Palou with the finest of fine-tooth combs to make sure it is ready to go for a race weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially coming into the last couple of the season, nothing can go wrong for you at this point.
It's going to be fun at Nashville. I will say that. It is a great racetrack. It has always put on some good racing with IndyCar, so I'm glad that they're going back there. But as we are getting ready, Joseph Newgarden, sticking with Milwaukee, he didn't really get a lot of time to experience the Milwaukee Mile because he got wrecked out twice on the initial start of the race. Twice. Did not officially complete a lap at the Milwaukee Mile. And after the issue at Gateway that kind of helped him to win a race, it almost felt like karma, but that has got to suck to spin in one race because someone's not paying attention on the initial start. You go to the second race and the same thing happens.
It's got to be really frustrating for him.
Got to be a kick in the pants. And ironically, this is when this is when they put a extra line on the track to denote the end of the restart zone. Didn't really help, it seems, with cars still getting into incidents at the initial start. But I will say the Milwaukee Mile race, one of the best non-Indy 500 oval races of the year, both races this weekend. Drivers were able to make passes on the flat surface. It seems that with this current IndyCar package, it likes flat ovals. So maybe we can get back to New Hampshire. Something on the East Coast, please. Because right now, IndyCar, a very Midwest and West Coast centric series. Also, that international race that is always 1 year away, guys. We're 1 year away from going international in IndyCar again. We'll see. I will believe it when we're parking the trucks. But hey, the championship is now set. It is between 2 realistically, 3 mathematically. Alex Palou, Will Power, Scotty Mack. Those of your 3 going in to fight for the championship. Palou's got to finish really in the top 10, and he'll still win the championship. Will Power just has to go out and win, and Scott McLaughlin has got to get aggressive, hope something happens to everybody else. Chris, Michael, who do you got?
Well, I'm going to go. My heart wants to go with Scott McLaughlin because he's just my favorite. But realistically, probably Palou, because Palou's just got to essentially drive defensively at this point. Keep the points, just have good points days, and he's got it. Whereas, Power's got to be aggressive, and Scotty Mack needs an act of God. So I'm just playing the odds here and saying Palou. What about you, Michael?
Like you, my heart also wants to say Scotty Mack, but let's be honest, Palou's got this in the bag.
I would love for Scotty Mack to win, especially after the wild tweets after his second win, where he was up drinking and tweeting the song list from the post-race party, and then woke up absolutely hungover, like in the middle of the day on Monday.
Yep.
Scotty Mack's Twitter is a national treasure, and we are keeping him. I'm sorry, New Zealand, but I want him to win the championship. It really feels like Palou's got this. He just has to go and run good enough at Nashville. He doesn't have to go all out. And I think he will be able to do enough to win the championship without getting another contract lawsuit. So good for Palou. But hey, it's going to be a fun motorsports weekend. Only NASCAR on the schedule this weekend. You can watch that on NBC. Cannot wait to see how the playoffs are going to get started. We are 10 to go until the end of the NASCAR season. Formula One is heading to December, but IndyCar next week, they will be wrapping up. But for right now, we are wrapping up this edition of the Extra Mile. For Chris and Michael, I'm Darryl. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.